Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Team Inkfinity podcast, where we talk everything Lorcana. Today is an extremely special episode. I think we've got an awesome guest with us today. Mo's back with us as normal, but even better than Mo, we have Brandon, aka BSquared, with us. Which I have to say, like, this is something that I've wanted to do forever, so I'm super excited about it. So thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you guys for asking me on. I'm super excited to be joining Team Inkfinity on the podcast.
Yes, absolutely. It's been a while since I think we've had a like an outside guest, and especially one of your stature. So I know I've hyped you up in the background, so now I have to do it publicly too. Yeah, it's cool to have somebody like, we have a bunch of competitive people on here, but somebody from like the other side of the competitive aisle. And I know you play a lot too, but obviously like getting somebody with just a lot of diverse experience within the scene that you do, with all the casting stuff is really cool. So appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.
And I guess I do have to say too, before I had my bucket hat ready, and I had it, and I don't ever wear this, but I had it on, and I was like, I'm gonna do it, and then I was like, I can't do it. It's just not me. Like, that's his thing. I don't feel comfortable. I feel out of my skin, and so I had to stop. But we just you're very much welcomed here in the fashion world of the Lorcana scene, obviously, as well, just being the big trendsetter.
I did say we should both be wearing bucket hats when you came in, but the only bucket hat I have is technically yours, and I don't want to like.
You could have worn mine. That would have been fine. No, you're not the only person that doesn't is a little uncomfortable wearing them. To be honest, like, I'm not always comfortable wearing them. It kind of started as a joke. Like, I won't go into the whole story of how it started, but it definitely started as kind of a joke, and my friends pushing me to just wear it anyway. And then I just like wore it with confidence and got a bunch of compliments on it. So I was like, maybe I'll just keep wearing it.
That's what everybody says. Like, anytime you like try to step out of your comfort zone with stuff, I mean, whether it be like a fashion thing or, just a new job or whatever the case might be, it's always just like, just own it and, pretend like you know what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And then, that confidence definitely follows through. And so that's kind of a, even those little snippets are just funny to hear that, it's not just me that feels that way.
Yeah.
But okay, yeah. So today should be a fun one. I told you guys before we came on and we said last week's episode that this week was supposed to be on the conversation between ban versus like card rotation for how we should handle future endeavors with that. Ravensburger went ahead and preemptively answered that question for us, and so that conversation's a little more moot at this point. And so we're just going to have a fun conversation talking about, some of the things we'd like to see in the future, from cards to properties to, just all of the different like potential tech things that would come up to make the game more fun, to just have, more of a casual, fun conversation on that front. So with that said, I guess we can go ahead and jump into it, because I imagine everybody listening to this probably knows who you are, but just in case there's like that one person out there that we've caught from the locals that are just now getting into Lorcana, then let's go ahead and just get some of the boilerplate questions off the table. And these are very hard hitting, so just be ready. The first question is, what is your favorite Lorcana card? Doesn't have to be the best, doesn't have to, just like genuine, like criteria doesn't matter. What's your favorite card?
The one that I always go back to for this is Stitch Carefree Surfer. It was a card that I enjoyed playing in set 1. It's like the first Stitch Enchanted card, which I was really excited about. And Stitch, we'll get to this later, but you'll see a trend in some of these questions coming along. And I don't know, I just really like the card. It was fun to play back in the day.
Yeah, I had an inkling of which direction that would go. I wasn't sure if it was going to be Rockstar or Surfer, but that's, so again, like,
Yeah.
I'm learning things too. So you love to see it. And then speaking of Enchanted, that's always question 2 is, what is your favorite Enchanted? I say art, but Enchanted card, however you want to describe it. But what is your favorite Enchanted art?
So this one is going to be Stitch Rockstar instead of Surfer.
Yep.
Mainly because I think, well, first of all, the set Champs Enchanted Stitch Rockstar is a Nicholas Cole card. I love all of Nicholas Cole stuff. He did a lot of the first chapter cards, and I think he does a great job of like embodying that Disney art style in all the normal cards. And I've loved all of his other Enchanted cards that he's done as well. But the card's also a little special to me because it's kind of the first time that I really pushed myself as a card player to like try to do really well. I remember for that set champs, I was like, I have to earn these Stitches because Stitch is my favorite character, and like I'm gonna want this card. And I told myself I'd be happy if I just got one of them. So I trained like I had like a whole training arc for set 3, practicing different decks and preparing for the events. And then every event that I went to, I topped and got a Stitch. So it was like a way for me to kind of like pat myself on the back and be like, "Hey, you're capable. Like you're capable." You, like kind of get rid of that imposter syndrome. So I've kept at least one of them, and I just kind of keep it like on a shelf somewhere to give me that little reminder of like, you know, you kind of know what you're doing sometimes, even when you think like even if you feel like you don't.
No, that's really fun. Like kind of just the backstory there. I feel like that's very much in the vein of like where I was at that time too, where I was, you know, taking it kind of seriously, but never had really any super competitive experience. And so it's, I had very much the same thing. And this is a little biased, I think, but I have a feeling most people will agree that that's like hands down the best set champs enchanted, right? Like there's no debating that.
I think so. Okay. Yeah, I think so.
I thought so. I mean, Mo, you agree on that one as well, right? Like there's no debating.
I unfortunately was not playing during that time to earn any but it definitely is gorgeous. Okay. I'm a little bit of a fan of Ursula just because I love that card, but
that was another really good one too, for sure.
Okay, I'm actually now that he says that, I'm actually throwing in you a curveball question. Are you do you lean more towards the heroes or towards the villains when it comes to these stories, just in general? You know, are you more a villain or a hero or a villain guy?
I think for Disney specifically, it would have to be heroes. I love the villain. Like I like Disney villains more than I like most other genre villains. It's hard for me to explain why, but especially the classic ones like Hades, Scar, Ursula, like all of those, they're just great. But I always find myself rooting for the heroes and the princesses and like that kind of thing. Those are my favorite characters, so I have to lean in that direction.
I agree. And see, I'm very much like a hero, you know, Homer as well. And so when Mo's over here saying, "Oh, the Ursula," like, no villains, can't do it. Even if they're great cards, like, you know, it's very weird because I now associate villains and heroes with like cards that I like versus cards that I don't. And so like there's very much like in my mindset that like Sisu's a villain to some degree, but she's clearly not. And so there's a little bit of blurred lines in there for sure. But yeah, Ursula is like the big bad, you know, as you mentioned. And so no Ursula, Mo, don't even bring that up here.
I'm that same way, but with like allies. Like ally is such an interesting keyword in Lorcana because it's like this weird blend where you have allies that are like obviously heroes because they were helping, you know, the heroes in the stories, but then you also have allies that were definitely not good people. Yeah, exactly. I was about to say, so for me, my version of like Sisu being a bad guy is like Diablo. Like I hate this card and it's not a villain, it's an ally, but at least it's villain adjacent, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Smee kind of fits into that topic as well. Yeah. He's definitely like a bad guy, but, you know, he's an ally and more seen as, I would say, a good guy in the whole scheme of Lorcana. So, but yeah, a little bit of a side there. But anyways, okay, so now on to like the super hard-hitting questions. You already kind of answered this one, but I'm going to make you dig a little deeper. What's your favorite Disney character?
It's Stitch. Easy.
Okay. And so, as we knew that would be the answer, so give us a little bit of backstory as to why he's your favorite and what like resonates with you about him.
So I actually didn't watch Lilo and Stitch like all that much growing up. I remember watching the movie, but it wasn't a Disney movie that was played very frequently. I went to daycare a lot because both my parents worked when I was small, and it's just one of those movies I don't remember being played very much. But very early on in the Lorcana community, I'd say back in like probably January, February, March of 2023, like before the game had even come out. There was a small group of creators that were making content for the game because it wasn't like super well known at the time. We only knew about some of the D23 cards and a little bit more. And there were some creators that did this, I think they called it Lore Madness. It was like a March Madness thing. but it was only for the cards that we knew so far. So
yeah.
most of them were the D23 cards, and there were some extra ones on top of that. And they basically just, it was kind of like podcast-esque, but every week or every couple of days, they'd bring in creators from the community, because we were just trying to like get everybody's name known and kind of push everybody to everyone else's content. And there'd be brackets of 2 different cards that they'd basically pit against each other. And we'd talk about which one was which. And there'd be this whole community poll. There was like a website and everything that you would go to, and you'd vote every week on which, card made it to the next bracket, until eventually there was a winner. At the time, there was a content creator named Lorcana Dad, and he was a huge Hades fan. And he had like all this Hades memorabilia behind him. And he loved the set 1 Hades with like the blonde hair, like the amber one that never sees play. But we were super excited about the card at the time. And one of the weeks, Stitch got paired up against Hades. Stitch ended up getting paired against like Hades, the set 1 Sapphire Robin Hood that like has evasive, and a couple other like pretty popular characters. And Lorcana Dad notoriously disliked Stitch, like thought just did not like him. And so I'm always somebody that really likes to lean into a bit, kind of how the bucket hat stuff started. So I like egged him on about this a lot. And we eventually came up with a deal where if Stitch won the Lore Madness thing, he would have to do a watch party with everybody where he watched Lilo and Stitch like all the way through. And then I don't even remember like what I was supposed to do if I lost. But eventually Hades got voted out. Robin Hood got voted out. Mickey, Brave Little Taylor got voted out. And it was just like this whole thing in the community for a while on which card and which character was the best. And I was like rooting for Stitch the whole time. And because of that, I went back and watched the movie for a little while and just kind of fell in love with the movie and like Stitch as a character in general. And even with Lilo, and Nani and their whole family, like Ohana's family, that kind of thing, because I won't get into specifics of this, but the Lorcana community is like super important to me. It feels like family. There's a lot of friends that I've made along the way. And I don't know, the movie just like really resonated with me after watching it again when I was a little bit older. And I'm also somebody that kind of loves to be a little chaotic in the same way that Stitch is. Like I'm always here just kind of like cause little chaos when unnecessary, like without it being necessary. So I don't know. I just really resonated with the character and the movie, and it's from like a great era of movies, I think, for Disney as well. And of course, Stitch is a super popular character. The card itself was really good back in set 1. And I thought it was a really cool take on like the Floodborne thing, with Stitch just being like, a rock star with his guitar and everything. So yeah, it all actually kind of stemmed from Lorcana instead of like
that's awesome.
being a Stitch fan for my whole life or whatever.
Yeah, that's crazy, because I mean, I like we just talked about before this. I mean, I think this definitely influences like what are my favorite characters at the time and what movies you go watch and how you interact, on the other side of, the Disney fandom. So no, that's an awesome story. And yeah, I got into it a little bit later on, like, July, August timeframe of 2023. So yeah, I wish I was there on all of that just to at least observe, because I love me a good bracket. But okay, so this next question, it seems very shallow on the surface, and it is, but there's a lot of deeper conversation that goes on after the fact. So, what is your favorite Disney movie? Are we sticking with a theme? Are we still saying Lilo and Stitch is your favorite movie?
Yeah, Lilo and Stitch is definitely my favorite. It's like a comfort movie. Again, I just like a lot of the themes from the movie. I also think I kind of have an appreciation for Lilo as the main character as well. Something that I thought was pretty interesting. Learning more about the movie was that in like a group study back when the movie was released, there were a lot of kids that resonated with Lilo. I think that were on the spectrum a little bit. And something that I really liked about Lilo is that she was this really like quirky, weird kid, but not in like the cute like Elsa and Anna, princess way. Like she was just weird. She didn't have a lot of friends. She had a difficult time kind of interacting with a lot of other people. And that definitely resonated with me a little bit in like growing up, and like I don't know, I feel like it's something that probably a lot of us can resonate with as trading card game people, because
For
we're
sure.
just we're a little bit out there sometimes. And so I really liked that. I also really appreciated, like I mentioned earlier, the themes kind of around family, and sort of like you can kind of choose your family based on who you keep around you. And the themes around like Stitch sort of starting as this chaotic, bad, like alien monster thing, and sort of transforming into this kind and fun character that ends up being with Lilo and the rest of the family. So I don't know. I just think those are a lot of really useful and helpful themes in those movies, especially for a kids movie. So yeah.
Yeah, no, love it. I mean, your analysis, you need to be a movie reviewer. Like you need to be a movie critic. Like your analysis of like the themes and the overall like character development and character, like interactions, everything. I would listen to you do Disney movie reviews like nonstop. So
There is a great, I don't remember it, I'd have to look it up, but there is a really good Lilo and Stitch like movie review that somebody does on it on YouTube that talks a little bit about some of this in a much better way than I just did, about some of those themes, which is kind of where I pulled a lot of that from. But I'm sure if you search on YouTube, just like Lilo and
I'm
Stitch
gonna have to, yeah.
documentary, movie review, whatever, it's there. It's a really good listen. I definitely recommend it.
Okay, and so this I said that's a very shallow question, but there's more to it. So obviously we've asked those questions to everybody on the team, and I would say more than 70% of answers they would give a favorite character that wasn't in their favorite movie. So you would have like,
Oh,
like
really?
Simba would be their favorite character, and their favorite movie would be, I don't know, Lilo and Stitch, or their favorite character would be like Cinderella, and their favorite, like movie would be Little Mermaid or something. And so it's really interesting to see the dynamic of like the fandom across Disney, because there's like so many polarizing characters in a very good way. Like everybody has so much affinity with all of these different characters and the stories and everything that. Yeah, it was just I assumed that that's where you would go just from knowing you a little bit, but yeah, it's very interesting to just see how different people have those different reactions for characters and movies.
Putting my answers to shame, I'll just have you know.
You were one of the few. Yes, I do remember you were one of the few. Okay, and the last question is, what's your favorite Disney song? This one has to be a little bit harder.
Okay.
Maybe I'm wrong, but
it's not from Lilo and Stitch.
Okay.
Lilo and Stitch has a great soundtrack,
Yeah.
but it doesn't have quite the bangers that some other movies do. The one that immediately comes to mind is Be Prepared. I don't know why. I just love Scar as a villain. And Be Prepared has turned into such an iconic card for the game as well.
For sure.
That when I'm listening through my daily or my Disney playlist, in the Disney mood, Be Prepared is always one of those songs that I'm like excited to hear and not skip and belt along to by myself in my truck. I don't know, just something about that song does it for me.
No, that's definitely an iconic answer. And again, I think just as a Lorcana player, like you definitely start to draw affinities to a lot of the stuff that you see, and that's has to be one of the most iconic cards in the game too. So I can definitely appreciate the answer. But yeah, the songs one is definitely hard too, because again, like music is so obviously like movies and your opinions of movies is very personal, but like songs and just the way that people pick up with them are so different. And so and I guess like music is so mood driven too, right? If you want something fun and upbeat, then you go one way. If you want something more somber, Disney has all of that stuff too. And so yeah, it's just it's very mood driven for me, but obviously the Disney music is as iconic as it gets. Okay, last question. I didn't tell you this one too, but this is like just diving into the rest of the conversation is, yeah. So just give us all a little bit of the history of like your TCG experience. Is this your first like time playing a card game? Like, is this your first time collecting cards? Just like what's the history of you with just card games in general, and what got you into it? And I guess in conjunction with that, like what made you come to Lorcana?
Yeah, I love talking about this because I have been a trading card game fan for really as long as I can remember. It's just it isn't something that I really um, what's the word I'm trying to think of here? Like I didn't seek it out until much later in my life. So as a kid, I grew up watching Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, all of that stuff. I collected Pokemon cards, collected old Yu-Gi-Oh cards, still have old binders of some of them, none of them like worth a whole lot, but definitely collected them, brought them to school, like that kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
There weren't a lot of people around me though that were like my age that also were into that kind of thing. So it didn't take long for that hobby to kind of die out for me, just because I didn't have people to play the card games with. And I think as I entered middle school, Hearthstone came out and started to become kind of a thing, and was pretty revolutionary as a digital trading card game. And I remember picking that game up and playing it a lot, but I was also in middle school, so like I wasn't very good. I didn't know what I was doing. I very distinctly remember like watching streamers all the time play the game and trying to play ranked. And obviously I was a middle school kid, so I didn't have money to spend on the game. I was just working on my free to play account, and struggled a lot in ranked, but had a lot of fun in that game as well. Eventually, I took a break from that, and throughout high school, just didn't like really play a whole lot of video games. I was pretty busy with sports in high school at that time. And then once I went off to college, I kind of started picking up card games again, digital card games specifically, and played a lot of Legends of Runeterra. I really loved that game. It's a Riot Games game, if anybody's unfamiliar, which is the same people that make like League of Legends. It's the League of Legends world, or Arcane, if anybody's familiar with that. And I really liked that game. College was kind of the first time where I had access to dive into something like that, kind of as much as I wanted to. And it was the first time that I really pushed myself as a card game player to like try to be decent. And so I pushed myself to try to climb, the rank ladder up to platinum, which wasn't the highest thing at the time, but it was kind of like that. It was like that ridge of, okay, if you can make it to this rank, you're like semi decent at this game at least. So I played a lot of that. Legends of Runeterra taught me a lot of the fundamentals that I ended up like carrying into other card games, because before then I was just kind of doing whatever I thought was cool, and didn't really even understand the sort of numbers behind trading card games and fundamentals that you can carry through different ones. Eventually, I stopped playing Legends of Runeterra and was eager to pick up a physical trading card game again. I did a lot of self-reflecting after college, and was in therapy for various reasons. And one of the things that was talked about in some of those sessions was, I always forget this phrasing, like doing something for your inner child, I think. And so like one of those things that I wanted to go do was, I remembered how badly I wanted to like buy Pokemon cards at Walmart as a kid. And I'd beg my parents to, let me buy whatever tins were there. And before this, I had never stepped into a local game store. I knew that my town had a local game store. I guess that's a lie. I had technically stepped into the local game store, but I walked in, looked around, was like, I have no idea what this is about, and then left. So around this time, I stepped in and I was like, I'm going to buy like 3 Pokemon packs. I'm going to open them and see what happens, and we'll see if it's just as fun as it was before. Newsflash, it was. I went in and bought the 3. I didn't even get like a super expensive card, but it was one of the like trainer gallery cards. I think it was Silver Tempest was the set that was out at the time. And I just remember like that rush of opening cards and finding something that was like super pretty and shiny. So after that, I was like, okay, well, there's a whole game behind this. I knew that people played Pokemon locally. So I started learning how to play the Pokemon TCG, started showing up to my local league there, playing online. Went to a couple tournaments and started kind of pushing myself to do good locally. And that, which didn't actually last very long. That was probably about 3 or 4 months. No, maybe not even that much. Probably 3 or 2 months worth of my time. And then in January of 2023, I remember seeing an IGN article about this Disney Lorcana game that was supposed to come out, because I think in August or September or something, the D23 cards had been released, and I didn't know about them yet. So me kind of realizing, because also it wasn't until Pokemon that I realized, oh, I've kind of always been a trading card game player, but like I'm in rural Louisiana, so like there's not exactly a ton of people around here like into this kind of thing, and so I just kind of realized that it wasn't really something that was fostered growing up, and so I didn't even recognize this was like a whole hobby. That was something that I really enjoyed about Pokemon is when I started playing. I think like one of the first weekends I showed up to the shop and played in their tournaments, they're like, oh yeah, we're all traveling to, I think it was Dallas or something for a Pokemon regional tournament. And I'm like, wait, you guys are like traveling to play this game with each other and like sharing hotel rooms? They're like, yeah, we travel all over the country like to do this. And I was like, I get to travel and play, a game that's really cool with a bunch of my friends. Like, how did I not know about this until now? So anyway, I saw the IGN article about Disney Lorcana, and I was like, this is going to be big. It's Disney. I can see the art already. I'll never forget the Brave Little Tailor Mickey art was the first one that I saw. I'm like, this just embodies like the classic nostalgia Disney vibe that all of us love. And if this trading card game is good, it's going to be like just as big as all the others one day. And so basically from that moment, I had just like dove headfirst in on that. Did a quick like YouTube search and looked for all the podcasts and things that I could about the game, and realized that there was very little content being made on it at that time, partially because there wasn't very much. We didn't even know how to play the game yet. And the rest is kind of history. I started making YouTube content very shortly after that. I've always been interested in like commentating and casting, so that was something kind of from the very beginning that I wanted to get into as the game was releasing. And since then, played a lot of Disney Lorcana, used all that time up until now to really grow as a TCG player. Again, kind of working on some of those fundamentals that I was missing beforehand. And I think this is a great game for that because of its relatively simple mechanics and play style. So I wouldn't call myself like a super experienced TCG player because I haven't exactly gone and done like great competitive feats like a bunch of other people in this community have, but I've been around the space for a long time and really appreciate the hobby. So
yeah, no, love it. I mean, it that's the one thing that I think Disney Lorcana, to your point, like has done it insanely well. Is it's a new property. It brought a bunch of Disney fans. Like, I mean, I'd never played before. I'd been kind of like you, where I'd just been kind of collecting on the side, initially, and not really interested. But it was a new card game. It was like, okay, I can actually learn how to play and go from the beginning. And so yeah, it has experienced players like Mo. It has new like fun hobbyists, like more like us, and then everything all in between to some of the digital card game players I know have come and joined it. And so yeah, that's just, I mean, it's brought in so many different like walks of life into it, which is just fantastic to see. But I had one like offshoot question you said that I have to ask now is the new Riot card. I can't ever remember the name of it. Are you
I don't
interested in that at all, or
kind of. I'm not as interested in it as I am Lorcana because this is something I didn't touch on, but I'm glad I can now. Like, I really liked Pokemon kind of for the aesthetic, but I resonate more with Disney than like any of the other card game IPs that exist out there. Which I think is part of why I liked Legends of Runeterra so much, is because for a brief point I liked playing League of Legends and like kept up with that competitive esport as well. But I love the Riot Game stuff. I'm really upset that Legends of Runeterra kind of had to be like shut. It's not shut down, but they had to kind of stop supporting it sort of in a way. And a lot of stuff that I've seen from, I don't remember what the actual name of it. I just know it was Project K a while back, but I think it's changed since then.
I can't remember the name. I know they did.
What is it?
Riftbound.
Oh, Riftbound.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. I knew it was Rift something, but I couldn't remember what it was.
So when the initial cards that we saw with the art and stuff on it, I really didn't like. This might be a hot take. I didn't love the arcane like animation style. I think there's times in which it looks really beautiful, but it's not always it's not really like always my jam.
Sure.
And the cards were basically just like copy paste renderings of that. Also, I got a little frustrated because they were reusing art that they used from Legends of Runeterra. And like there would be similar abilities on those cards, but then they wouldn't name the cards the same thing that they were called Legends of Runeterra. So there's like I don't remember any of them now, but I remember seeing those cards and being like, oh, that card is Revive, or like whatever the card name is called, and then it would be something totally different. And I'm like, this is going to be so confusing. I also just don't have the space to play a whole another TCG.
Same.
And being in a rural area like Louisiana, it's already been difficult enough to like build a Lorcana community anywhere relatively close. And so I don't expect there to be much of a Riftbound community if they even stock the cards in the store. I'm kind of just trying to not let myself even like start
I understand
so that I don't get sucked in.
That 100%. Yeah, I had the same thing when Star Wars, the Star Wars one came out.
Oh
I was
yeah,
a massive Star Wars and Marvel fan. I was like, oh, this is like way too cool. And then I got the starter decks, and I was like, leave it there. Don't go any further because you're going to cause a lot of issues with yourself, like trying to keep up with both games. And so I'm not like super into all the right stuff, but I think their properties and like their lore and everything is fantastic. And so I'm just interested from that regard. But Mo, well, I haven't asked you that question yet either. Are you? I mean, I know that you're very like invested in Lorcana, obviously, with how well you've performed. But any interest in any of the right stuff? I know you're on the gamer side as well.
So, as opposed to y'all, I see like One Piece and Magic get like bigger tournaments on a local level, and I'm like, I could learn how to play that to make a buck. So, and of course, I love the lore. I played League for nearly 10 years of my life. I kind of want those back, but still.
As does everyone.
But I love the Runeterra universe, and I'll definitely be picking up some cards. If I play, depends on if we have a healthy local scene.
Man,
but I hardly get to make it to League as is.
So Cody and Devin have been, all former fellow team members. You guys aren't kicked off. It's just me not being able to talk. Fellow team members have also said that they're interested. So if you three both get into it, like I know the peer pressure is going to drag me in as well. So I'm not liking where this is going. But anyways, I had to ask since he brought it up because it's just another big one coming out. But no, it's really interesting to just hear everybody's stories because it's everybody's different. I don't know if I've talked to two people that have like the exact same history when it comes to TCGs, and so just seeing how you have such like a cool niche within the scene too is just really interesting to see how you got here. But okay. Yeah, I mean, that's a way longer like intro than I thought we would have. But no, I think that I told you this would be a very fun, casual, just great conversation. So I mean that in the most fantastic way possible. It's when you're just talking and you're enjoying the stories and killing time, you love it. But okay, so normal segment to get into some of the more main topics is we always pick a card of the week to highlight, and so. Brandon, do you have a card that you would like to showcase for this week?
I do. There's been a lot of shaking up since the Hiram and Force were banned, and I've just been kind of having fun deck brewing with random stuff that I'm like, maybe this could work now. Yeah. I've been having a lot of fun with Bolt Super Dog. It's like it's like an Amber Steel Duel Link card that hasn't gotten a ton of love, but I remember seeing it and being like, this could be really interesting. And he even has a like shift target that costs 2. He like just fits into that Steel Song shift line that we used to run with like Robin Hoods or Queens or things like that, where it's like on turn 3 you're just trying to shift a body out so you can sing Whole New World and then kind of set up a bunch of stuff. And then the cool thing is if like you can keep all the characters off of your opponent's side of the board, then Bolt's probably going to be singing stuff. He's going to be questing. He's going to be doing a lot of that. And if he readies, Steel Song likes to go pretty wide as well. You get a bunch of instant lore, and you can kind of steamroll if you do that. So I've been having a lot of fun with that card. I thought it also would pair well with the Simba card from set 5 or 6 that like readies all characters. If you end the turn, he's exerted. Yeah. You can like ready the Bolt, and then all your stuff is. You gain a bunch of lore for that. So I don't know if it's any good or not, but it's one that I've just been like playing around with and testing and having fun with.
No, I love this answer. I'm so glad you brought this one up because Cody and I think since before the set came out, Cody and I both have been like, I want Bolt to work. Like I want to figure out Bolt. And so
Yeah.
I've definitely built, I don't know, probably 4 iterations of a Bolt deck. The first one was very much in line with what you said with the Simba, where it's just like, that seems to be the most obvious synergy where, you know, you shift the Simba, everything re-readies, you get a bunch of lore from that. Then he's protected and everything else as well. So it keeps the damage off for the next turn also. That seemed, at least in my eyes, a little too ambitious after trying to test it. And so then there's a couple songs. God, I'm gonna forget the name of the song now. The Zootopia song that when you sing it, you can ready a character and remove the damage, ready a character. And so then I was like, okay, well then that's the way to go, because you know you can sing. You're trying to do that already in Steel Song, and I've had some semblance of success with that one, but I haven't really dove back into it since the bans. And so, yeah, this one's very much on my radar too. And on top of that, this was like the first tease we had of Duel Link cards. And so, I mean, this one's really cool too. I love that one. Mo, what are your thoughts on the Bolt here? Because I love it.
I adore this card. I just think like you go Quest, you go Sven, re-ready.
Yes, I love Spin. Yes.
Spin is a perfect like synergy with this too. So
I was actually discussing this a little bit earlier, but in the world, like when you compare it to Robin Hood Champion, like you have some benefits to running the Bolt line. I know he goes down to a single Zeus and Robin Hood does not, but like I think effectively you just get more lore out of Bolt, and the shift is a little safer being a 3 health target, like to aim for to get on the play or on the draw sometimes rather. Then you can do some fun stuff with this card. I love it.
Yeah, no, it's I don't know how I forgot Sven in my whole spiel there, but yeah, there was this is like by no means like the most broken testing, and I've cracked the meta, but I've played probably 5 or 6 games in various builds of it, and there was one time where you quest with Bolt, ready him with Sven, sing the song on top of it, and I got like 8 like burst lore, and I was like, this is the most broken thing ever. Like, just play Bolt, it's gonna win. And obviously there's a lot of other problems or threats out there that you have to deal with when playing him. But no, this is a perfect one to bring up, because this is definitely something that I want to continue to experiment with, and I would love for him to have a deck built around him, because it is just a super fun card.
Yeah, no pun intended, but like I kind of want to turn it into my pet deck, because there's a lot of ideas that I have for it. Like I think it synergizes really well. If you're gonna do the thing where you try to put a bunch of cards in your deck that ready other characters, I think really leaning into the songs just like helps, because a lot of them is like they ready but they can't quest or challenge or some variation of that. And so like even if you don't have a Bolt on board, maybe you can like double sing something with Ariel, or at least sing 2 songs with Ariel. And I'm also trying to find ways to fit in like resist, because obviously the 5 willpower can be difficult to keep him alive sometimes with cards like Zeus in the format, and like thinking that we're probably going to be leaning more towards a steel format than a ruby format. But there's also like the new cards like Penny, right? Like Penny does all the things you're wanting to do with Bolt, where you remove damage from something and give it resist. So it's like you can kind of use that to heal up anything that's taking damage on your side of the board, and give it resist to survive a little bit longer. I don't know if there's anything there, but I'm having fun with it anyway.
No, I love it. I mean, I'm super glad you said that one, because that one it perked me up right away and made me excited to talk through. But I mean, speaking of the meta, I guess we do have to talk a little bit about it. I don't, we already had like our red alert Hiram episode, but we started to see a little bit of post Hiram World come into fruition now. This is the weekend past the ban, and there have been a couple tournaments today. And have obviously a lot of new lists that are starting to come out, and so I want to get your guys' takes on it, because my fear is with this is we're the meta is going to kind of go ditch to ditch, where you go from one Mo's very much on top of it, where you're have one quote oppressive card to one just another very oppressive card. And so my take is like there's always going to be a best card, and so like how do you define when that best card is like too much of the best card versus just like it being really strong? And so now that we're kind of going into the Diablo meta, I'm very much not a fan of Diablo meta and discard meta, but obviously everybody's going to have differing opinions, and so that's not mine to just push on everybody else. But yeah, just want to get your takes on kind of where this looks like everything's going to head, and what the thoughts for the future. And I keep saying set because it seems like it's just a new set now because it's that big of a shakeup. But yeah, Mo, what's your thoughts now after having a little bit more time on the new changes and where things are going to look like they're going to go?
I'll go first. So I definitely think we're walking into not necessarily a Diablo meta perchance, but certainly a Steel meta. And I think we're going to see decks that have consistent, because let's be real, Diablo is the best card in the game right now. And discard is looking very strong. But I think when you look historically at the decks that combat it well, they're not really weakened too much like by this. Like if you open up a Cinderella turn 1, you're still feeling pretty good if they play the bird. Like like you just look at that. Purple Steel has a lot of just powerful cards and lines. Looking in here, I've discussed Smash as an option. Now that Hiram's out of the meta, Smash is essentially a pseudo brawl in a way. Like a lot of the targets you would brawl, you can just smash now, and having Steel have that option is really powerful. But yeah, I think we're going to be looking at a Steel, and if not just a Steel, an Amethyst meta. I think a lot of being able to go blow for blow with these decks and this removal that's happening or this discard that's being forced upon you, bouncing a rabbit is kind of back. Like it looks really good right now.
Yep. Brandon, what are your thoughts on how everything's starting to shape up?
I agree a lot with Mo on a lot of these. I'm eager to see if the Diablo fear is real. In a lot of early top 8s, I haven't seen as much discard as I was expecting to, but Diablo, of course, is a very strong card and arguably one of the better decks to play against discard, being red-blue with their ability to use Hiram and Popsicles to kind of just get out of that discard trench. Obviously, they lost the Hiram part, so that's going to be a lot worse. And totally agree with Mel on the Amethyst thing. Like I started thinking, if we are headed in a discard direction, like what cards can combat discard the best? And like the decks that immediately come to mind is any dock decks that like doesn't care about not having cards in hand. And Steel Song is, or really not even Steel Song, but Whole New World decks and kind of like undo all the discard that's being done. But then again, primarily Amethyst, because back in the day, even before red blue kind of it took over the way that it did, Ruby Amethyst was just was like one of the only decks that could do well into discard, because you just every card that you play draws a card, even to a point where we're playing Finders Keepers, right, just to like draw a bunch of extra cards. And as long as you can get to that 7 ink so that you can be prepared their board away, you're in a pretty good spot. So I'm definitely eager to see how Steel evolves and whether we lean towards discard, whether we lean towards songs, whether we lean towards Amethyst Steel, and kind of what shakes up there. Because I think that will very much determine where the meta ends up actually being. Because if discard isn't as popular as we thought it would be, then I think it's going to go in a completely different direction. And I don't know where that is, just because everybody's scared of Diablo and discard currently. Actually, it would probably lean towards Ward. I'd take that back. We'd probably move towards a Ward meta if Steel gets too crazy. But one other thing is I wonder if Ruby Amethyst has room to come back now, because it was pretty dead in this format, just because I think Red Blue got so fast with their bells and with the ability to abuse Sisu through cards like this Sapphire Coil that it just couldn't do what it did before. But now if we're trying to combat discard, like I said earlier, Amethyst is a great way to combat that. And then Ruby's going to beat Steel, every day, as long as you can get to that point in the game and don't wheel away all of your late game stuff. So I wouldn't be surprised if Ruby Amethyst pops up again to sort of counter discard and also some of these other Steel decks by sort of running the better removal package.
Sure. I think the next question that I haven't seen talked about too much, but how do we feel about the timing? The timing is like very interesting. On one hand, it feels like a very good time to do it because it's not like there's a DLC next week and there's like massive implications to that. But there is obviously set champs in like 2 weeks now, and so for not like the uber competitive people, but for the community at large, like there's a lot of changes for everybody to to start to digest really quickly here, and as we like ramp up for the set champ season. So like I mean, I don't think there's like a good or bad way to do it. I mean, they feel like there's a problem, you get rid of it and call it good. But yeah, I mean, just I guess that haven't really talked about that one yet. But how you feel like the kind of just like the approach and the timing of everything has taken place?
I think Ravensburger is making a statement seeing these results coming in. We've seen 7 out of 8 Sapphire placements in 3 of the biggest tournaments this past month.
True.
And I think they just said they didn't want their set champs to look like that. And so they made the call early. And it is really interesting. And you look at the people who invested in these Sapphire decks and you feel for them, but also you see it's not changing an awful lot. Like Tomato is still a $50 card. I just looked at it here. Like there's still some belief in the power level of these Sapphire decks, rightfully so. I kind of like the timing to answer the question. I feel like it gives us a little bit of results oriented things to move forward, and just a little bit more to watch in the next couple weeks. Like if the Diablo dominates every big tournament this weekend, next weekend in set champs, then it's like, oh, okay, this is an unhealthy card. And I like that they said that they were going to be watching it as well. But yeah, I feel like it gives us enough time to adjust, I would hope.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my biggest. I think like if you were gonna ban cards before set champs, the sooner the better, right? Because I'd hate for Hiram and Fortitude to be banned 2 weeks before set champs was gonna happen, and everybody kind of has to pivot onto something else. It, like Mo said, it kind of sucks when people spend a bunch of money on certain cards that these bans affect. But I think it's nice at the very least to give people time to sort of pivot to something else that they want to play if they don't want to try and figure out what the next version of those decks look like. So I agree. If you're going to do the ban, I appreciate that you do it now. If you're going to do it before set champs,
I'm definitely in the same boat on that one. Just rip the Band-Aid off. Like, don't, there's no need to like, prolong it or drag it out. Like if it's going to happen, just make it happen and and let's move on and figure out what it's going to look like in the future. But yeah, it's an interesting time for sure. And, again, everybody's going to have their opinions, and whether it's good or bad, I'm not here to say, it is, it's shake things up. And honestly, like that's why they come out with new cards, right? It's obviously a business, and they want to continue to, make money and support the game. But like, I feel like at the end of every set, there's a little bit of fatigue. It's like, okay, it's time to switch it up and everything. And so, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's a new meta. It's a new, something for deck brewers to figure out and to have fun with. And so, yeah, it's just good to, to get to like go back to the drawing board and kind of figure things out again. But yeah, it's an interesting time for sure. Okay. Any final meta topics, and then we're going to move on to the final discussion, which is more just fun, casual thoughts. But yeah, I just want to make sure everybody got all their thoughts out on that one first.
I'll end my last thought here on the meta that it's very open at the moment. It feels good. Like it feels like there's a lot of decks out there I'm running into. There's a lot of decks I'm playing that feels good. It's hard to like put a finger down, but we've had 2 of the most diverse metas of the last 2 formats, and going straight from that to Sapphire domination was a big change. And coming out of that, like I feel like I can play green purple mid range again. I feel like I can play all the different songs. I feel like
selfish
can be a deck. Like I just feel like the death of Flaversham has given life to all of these other artists. We'll see.
Yeah. Fair enough. Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, again, it's shaking up. We'll see how things land in a couple weeks. And to your point earlier, if we have 2 weekends leading up to set champs and 4 weeks of set champs weekends where discard has basically topped everything, then maybe they'll take a relook at things. I'm not necessarily as much of a doomsdayer as I can tend to be at times. I don't necessarily think that's how it's going to go. Within the team and some of the practicing that we've already started to do post bans. it's very clear that there's, to Mo's point, a lot of potential opportunities to play around the Diablo, or to to deal with the Diablo and not completely get just sucked into it. So yeah, we'll see how things end up. There's a couple big tournaments coming up soon. There's one big locally that I probably should mention. Shout out to Sharp Gaming and the Lucky Llama Invitational, I guess is what it's called. It's going to be a pretty big tournament, a PSA 10 Elsa for the first place prize. So that's going to be a big one. There's going to be some big names there, including our very own Mo, and the vast majority of the Inkfinity team are going to be there. And so, yeah, it'll be a really fun one. And I think that'll be, one of the bigger tournaments that we will have had post Hiram. So that'll be really good to check out in a couple weekends when that one's finished. But yeah, so moving on to the last one, going back to just a more of a, fun kind of interesting theory topic is from a character, property, and like tech / ability standpoint. What are you looking to see in the future? We got our first keyword update with Vanish since I guess Resist, right? It's been a while since we've seen a new one of those. And so is there anything that you two think is missing from the game, or something that you think would add a lot of, new, freshness to it, or anything like that? But well, I want to start off with properties because that's always the fun one. So Brandon, we'll start with you. What, especially with, because we can go anywhere now with Pixar being announced, we can go all over the board. So what is the one property that you haven't seen? So you've gotten all the Stitches in the world. You've got a couple Lilos. Both are, relatively playable. So yeah, what are you looking, what property hasn't been represented yet that you'd love to see a card or, movie have a couple representations from?
So this is a usually difficult question for me to answer if we stay purely within like the Walt Disney Animation Studios films, because pretty much everything that I grew up on and enjoyed as a kid is already in the game in some capacity. And there doesn't leave a ton of room. Like I usually say something like Tarzan, because I remember watching a lot of Tarzan when I grew up, but like I haven't watched that movie in forever. It doesn't have like a particularly meaningful. It doesn't mean anything special to me other than it would be cool to have in the game. But as soon as we start recognizing that Pixar is available in the game, Ratatouille is like one of my favorite movies ever,
Yes.
like of any movie. And so I really hope that we see some Ratatouille cards coming in the future. I don't know what they would look like. I don't know if they're just going to kind of lean into the healing effect like we see some other food items in the game so far, or I don't even know sort of mechanically like what would make Ratatouille cards unique. But I would just love to see those characters in the game.
He's got to be sneaky somehow. I don't, maybe evasive is
Yeah,
not
evasive could be
necessarily
one.
the best way to do it, but some sort of like where he can, sneak around and, kind of go unnoticed or untouched, and so I guess evasive does really fit that really well. But he obviously sneaks through a lot of the movie unnoticed, or well, I guess that's not true. He does get noticed a few times, but obviously his helping. But yeah, Pixar, it's really cool to have like open these new floodgates of options and opportunities, because I think your answer to that is kind of similar to a lot of what I've heard other people. We've started to have a lot of the big Disney movies now have been done, but I think the generation of people that is playing Lorcana very much grew up in the Pixar realm, after like the 90s golden years of Disney. And so there's a lot of people that have a ton of affinities with Pixar. And so I haven't heard Ratatouille yet though. So I'm glad you brought that one up, because that is a really fun one. For sure. And you gotta have some food. Maybe you throw in some like food items, I mean, there's so much opportunity for the Ratatouille item and for just so many other like fun ways to integrate it. But I think I've asked you this before, Mo, but just in case anybody new's listening, and obviously we've got some new fun video stuff now. So what are you thinking?
You want my realistic answer or my true answer first?
True answer, of course. This is our hopes and dreams.
Kingdom Hearts, baby.
Yeah,
like
that's right.
I need it. I need it to happen. I don't know if it's possible. I don't know the legality. I know the third Kingdom Hearts game is like almost entirely Disney, so I feel like it's
True.
definitely theirs. But like that was just such a huge part for me growing up. Like Kingdom Hearts reawoken the Disney kid in me and had me watch movies I hadn't seen before or wanted to rewatch again in years. But that game, like, I just love it. I think it could fit the thematics of Lorcana so well. Like, but okay, let's get to realistic because who knows when. Um, I think from Pixar, there's some really great options. Wally's a personal favorite of mine. I think I want Wally to be broken so much that people hate him. Like people cursing out Diablo, like this character that had like 10 minutes of screen time. Like, I don't know. But
yeah, you can't hate Wally, right? It's like it's Wally. Like, I'm sorry, like you can't hate Wally. That's
have
what,
you heard
when he's
my
busted and you
opinions on
play him, that's
Tipo?
what you just say.
Have you heard my opinions on Tipo, Zach? I hate that little
Okay, that's I guess fair, but Wally's I think probably a little bit more iconic and beloved than Tipo to be fair too. So,
But also, I want the little octopus from Finding Nemo to become a card. The one that
ooh,
says,
that's a
Oh
really good.
yeah.
That's a deep cut. That's a deep cut one too. I like that.
yeah, I'm waiting on that one. But yeah,
My hot take is Nemo's going to be one of the first Pixar properties. I think Brave is going to be the first big one because Merida is like the obvious bridge to get to the Disney side with the princess status. But I think that there's just a ton of Nemo love, and I think there's a good slew of characters to include from some of the quote villains like the Sharks and Bruce and some of the other just fun characters like Crush and Squirt are just iconic as well. So I think that's a good one. But okay, so adjacent question, Brandon, are you a big Parks fan? And if so, and I guess not if so, because I'm going to ask you this one regardless. So even if you say no, I hate the Disney parks, which I don't expect to be the case, but do you think there's ever an option to throw in like iconic more Disney theme park / more live action characters into the game? So think your Cinderella's castle, but not the castle from the thing, but like the iconic in Magic Kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
Throw in Tomorrowland stuff, throw in Adventureland like rides or whatever, and then like Pirates of the Caribbean and Tron and other just like super iconic Disney properties, but aren't necessarily known from the animated side.
So I do love the parks. I'm very excited. I always get excited to go to them. I have been saying for forever that I would love if Disney started making like cards that were just like rides from the park.
Now
I don't know what that looks like. But, like, give me a Space Mountain card. Like give me a Big Thunder Mountain card and implement some of those characters. And I know that there's like other characters that are specifically from the parks, like Figment is one of those. Like that would be really cool. It's like pull those things in as well. I think that would be like super, super fun. And kind of on top of this, I'm going a little bit even further for this question.
Good.
I want Ravensburger and Disney Lorcana to just do it all. Like, you mentioned Pirates of the Caribbean, the ride. Pirates of the Caribbean is my absolute favorite live action Disney like franchise.
Nice.
I want them to like dive into the live action franchises as well. Like give us Jack Sparrow, give us Barbossa, give us all the live action stuff as well, sort of cartoonified or animated. Because I think there's just room for all of it. I really do. Like if we're gonna pull in Pixar and we're gonna kind of take like these, if we're not just gonna stick with the traditional Walt Disney Animation Studios theme, and we're going to kind of go out of the box and start pulling stuff that's tangent to that, just do all of it. Just pull it all in.
Good. You've got the influence to help us get this. So I've been on this this ledge or not ledge, but this like mountaintop screaming this forever, saying I want the same thing because I'm just such a massive Disney Parks fan as well. And so the more positive sentiment we can get behind this movement going, the better. So I love to hear it.
Like, how cool would it be to have like a Dole Whip and a churro card?
I literally, I was literally about to say Dole Whip. Like, oh my gosh, that would just be like so iconic. Dole Whip is my wife Gabby's favorite like dessert ever of all time, and so she's like like every time we go to the parks, it's like we're going straight here. I don't care what you say. We're going to get a Dole Whip first, and we're gonna hang out. Yeah, Dole Whip would be like an iconic card. Enchanted Dole Whip. I'm calling it. Enchanted Dole Whip. Give me an Enchanted Dole Whip.
That'd be crazy.
All right, Mo. I know you are having a very shortly, or at some point in the near future, I guess, you're going to have a trip to Disney World. You know, we know World is coming. We know it's at Disney World. We know you're going. So, you know, what are you looking forward to in Disney World outside of the competition?
Gosh. So, like, I'm not big on rides. We talked about that. I'm scared of heights. I have major motion sickness problems. So, I have to be like on Dramamine just to go on the kid rides. And I'm half awake anyway. So, it's not a great time. But I'm really excited about taking Faye again. And just like, she's just like, there was just something in the air at that park that made me feel like a kid. And when I looked and saw her just having the time of her
Mm-hmm.
life, seeing these
Yeah.
Disney characters or these fancy like things, like she just had the craziest time at the Star Wars place or meeting Mickey Mouse. Like I'm just excited to watch her go crazy for it again. I think that's just like there are moments that being a parent reminds me of being a kid, and those
Oh
just
yeah.
like really ring true. Like I don't know, it's just stuff I'm gonna remember for years down the line,
Okay.
and
Well,
I'm thrilled to have
here's a
another
deep cut
opportunity.
one for you. Then do not pass on the Little Mermaid ride in Magic Kingdom. I don't
Okay.
think they have this. I don't think they have the same one at Disneyland, and I don't know if you had the chance to do that or not. If they did in California, but it's always one of like the lower wait time ones, and it's not like it's obviously a kid ride, so you can more than handle it. That's
Maybe.
my recommendation. So would be Little Mermaid. But yeah, I had the I didn't ask that when Brandon was talking, but yeah, what's your favorite ride? It can be any of the parks. What's your favorite, or even attraction? It doesn't even have to be a ride. It could be a show. But what's your
Oh,
favorite?
Oh man, that really opens it up.
I know literally anything.
So I've never ridden Space Mountain until I went to the North American Championship and did it at Disneyland, and I loved it
Mm,
when I did that because I'm also not much of a thrill seeker. Like, you're not going to catch me on Rock and Roller Coaster. You're not going to catch me on the Guardians Tower Drop, Tower of Terror rides. Like, that's just not my thing. Um, and I loved Space Mountain because I felt like it was just enough of that sort of like adrenaline excitement thing to be fun and walk off the ride smiling and laughing instead of wanting to throw up. um, so that would probably be my favorite. Oh
classic,
my gosh, this is so
classic.
hard. Like, favorite ride, but I also love Haunted Mansion. I have a lot of
Ooh,
good memories
very classic too.
of Haunted Mansion, having gone when I was like a kid. So I really like that. And then is it Phantasmic? Is that what the
Yep,
show is called?
yep.
Yeah, Phantasmic is definitely like my favorite show.
Love that
Out of
one.
those, I can't really pick a favorite like out of them. That's kind of the shotgun blast like
Love it.
answer
Love it.
to that question.
Okay, so I'm gonna give you the same recommendation then. Next time you go, whenever that ends up being, is Tron. So Tron, it's a big roller coaster. Like it looks scary from the outside, but it's not anywhere near like you're rocking. Like
Hmm.
launch and loops and everything. Like it's you get shut off a little quickly, but then it's a very tame, just like normal, like light cycle roller coaster. That's like by far my ultimate favorite one right now. It's just Tron's like so cool. And I don't know how like you two are about spoilers and stuff, but like the queue line for Tron was just like the first time I went in, I literally blew my mind. So cool. So if you're,
That's
and
cool.
I guess with that said, like Tron Ares is coming out now, and I saw the preview for that, and like my mind was blown on that one, and so I'm so ready for everything Tron at this point. It's a good one, but okay. I mean, we have a little bit of fun stuff, and we're like way over time at this point, so I don't want to just like keep dabbling on. But any final thoughts on future stuff, future properties, Disney parks, meta changes, favorite cards, any and all of the above? Now's the time.
I just want to shout out the food at Disneyland because I'm a big theme park food guy. Like I like the
Okay,
stuff. Oh
okay.
my God, that Star Wars cantina, those like
Ooh,
Oh my
Bronto
gosh, yes.
things, they were fire. The Tiana's beignets,
ooh,
like
yep.
those were so good. I just go around eating the entire time, and I'm just the happiest person.
Okay, well, I will tell you then, Epcot is going to be your favorite place to be.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I can't wait to go back to Epcot because I've always wanted to just like, I'll say the PG version of like and enjoy food around the world and other things. But
they have lots of options for all of the different cultural, needs. But yes, it's Epcot's definitely one of the more adult leaning favorites. But Ratatouille is now in Epcot as well. So
I know, yeah, I haven't seen it, so I'll have to go look.
it's a good one too. But yeah, thank you both for being on today. It was a fun talk, and yeah, just love to hear some of the stories behind the caster, and get to know you a little bit better, and then yeah, just understand where we're at today, and some of the hopefully future asks and hopes. And I'm glad I have another fighter with me on this Disney parks included in Lorcana journey, because
Yes.
I want that so bad too. But
Let's bring it.
yeah, thank you both for joining, and yeah, we'll catch everybody next time. Thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and have a good week, everybody. See you.